Hello everybody, so today we are doing lesson 7-1 notes, which is classifying angles. So if you take a look at the left hand side of your page, it says parts of an angle. So if you look here, we have a ray is when you have a point and then it's going in one direction. Your line is only going in one direction, not the other. We have a vertex, and that's where your point starts, or where your two rays come together. And then we have another ray here, and this all forms an angle. So it says an angle is created by two rays meeting at a common endpoint, the vertex. A ray is a line which starts from a point. A vertex is the point where the two rays meet. So if we're looking here, we're going to classify each angle. So if we're looking at this angle here, it says, what does it look like? This looks like an acute angle. So we're going to say acute angle. So a description of an acute angle would mean that this is less than 90 degrees. Okay, our next one, as you can see, it has this little box. That little box in the corner means that this is a right angle. So the description word that would mean that it is exactly 90 degrees. Okay, our next angle here, as you can see, it is bigger than 90. It is not smaller than 90. It is actually greater than 90. So this is called an obtuse angle. So an obtuse angle is an angle that is more than 90 degrees. Okay, and the last one, as you can see, it's a line, which lines are straight. So this is called a straight angle. Okay, so that would mean that this would be exactly 180 degrees. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and move on. So it says how to name an angle. So if we're looking at this angle here, okay, we would want this to have arrows on our ends. Okay, so it says, number one, you want to name it by its vertex. Remember, the vertex is where two rays come together. So we would label this as angle A. So that is the first way that we can name it. Okay, the second way is by the number that is written. So as you can see, the number that's written inside of there is 2. So we would label this as angle 2. Number 3, it says by identifying 3 points. So the biggest thing when you are identifying your 3 points, you have to start with not the vertex. So you want to either start for this angle at B or C. So let's start with B. So we'd have angle B, A, and C. So our vertex here, letter, is in the middle. It's always going to be in the middle. Okay. Then the last way is to reverse the order of the 3 points. So you could also have angle C, A, B. Noticing that angle A is the middle or the vertex. So it says, when naming an angle, the vertex must be the letter in the middle. So that's what we were just talking about, and that letter was A. All right. So go ahead and flip it onto the next page. So here we go. It says two angles are vertical angles if they are opposite angles formed by the intersection of two lines. Vertical angles are congruent or have the same measure. Two angles are adjacent if they share a common vertex, a common side, and do not overlap. Okay? So I always like to think of adjacent, I'm going to write this over here, as next to. In vertical is opposite or across. Okay, so it says which angles are vertical angles. So if we're going to get started here, it says which angles are vertical. So we would see that angle 1 here and angle 3 are across from each other. So we would say angle 1 and angle 3. Okay, there is another pair, 2 and 4, because they are also across from each other. So angle 2 and angle 4. Okay, then we're going to move on to adjacent angles. So adjacent angles, remember, like I had said, are angles that are next to one another. So if we're starting with angle 1, angles that are next to angle 1 are angle 1 and angle 2. That's one pair. I can also have angle 1 and angle 4, though, because those are also next to each other. So angle 1 and angle 4. Okay. Then if I went to angle 2, what's next to angle 2? Well, that's angle 3. So angle 2 and angle 3. And I already did 1 and 2 at the top, so that's already done. And then if I look at angle 3, I would have that adjacent to angle 4. So angle 3 and angle 4. And then if I went to 4, I already did 3 and 1, so those are all done. Okay. Then I have to say which angles are congruent. So congruent, remember, means equal to. And in our definitions, it said the only angles that can be congruent are vertical angles. So that would be angle 1 and angle 3. And actually, instead of writing the word and, we're going to write our congruent symbol just to get some practice. So just so you know how to write it, we have like a squiggly, a sideways S, and then an equal sign underneath. That means congruent. So angle 1 and angle 3, and then we have angle 2 is congruent to angle 4, because remember, opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so this is not going to apply for today, only because you don't have a protractor. If you have one and you want to give it a try, that would be great. If not, it's totally fine as well. So if you were using a protractor and you knew how to use one, the first thing is you would place the center mark of the protractor on the vertex of the angle. So this is the center mark here. Then you would line up the 0 edge. So this here, where my squiggly line is your 0 edge with the ray, and then you would start at 0 and determine the degree of the angle. So if you're starting to the right, you would use your inside numbers. If you went to your left as your 0 edge, then you would use the numbers on the outside. It just depends on how your angle is going. So if you want to, you can go ahead and try this part if you actually do have a protractor at home, and you can go ahead and measure these. If not, that's totally fine. You can just go ahead and move on with me. Same thing with page number 4. This is also another thing where you could use your protractor to practice if you have one at home. Otherwise, do not worry about it. Okay, so all the way to the last page. So it says how to find a missing measure. You want to solve for the following variables. Note the angles are not drawn to scale. So if we're looking at example 1, we have 88, and we're looking for the angle straight across. If you remember, across means that they are vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. So 88 degrees is going to be the same as x degrees, so 88 is what x is equal to. So 88 degrees is equal to x. Okay, our next one, as you can see, okay, these are also vertical angles because they are opposite of one another. However, this one's a little different because we have 130 and then we have 2x plus 2. So we're trying to find out what actually x is equal to. Since we know that they are actually congruent, we're going to set them equal to one another. So we have 130 is equal to 2x plus 2. And we're actually going to solve this like a two-step equation. So I would go ahead and subtract 2 from both sides. And I would get 128 is equal to 2x. And then I would go ahead and divide by 2. And my x would equal 64 degrees. Actually, it's not even degrees. You can write degrees if you want. But we're just looking for x. So you could just write 64. Okay, so this two-step equation problem should be a little bit of review from last chapter. Okay, so example number 3, there. As you can see, it is a straight angle. From the first page of our notes, we know straight angles are equal to 180 degrees. So we know that when we have two angles, they're going to add up to be 180. So we're going to add up our 120 plus our x degree angle, And we're going to have that equal 180. From here, I'm going to subtract 120 from both sides. And I'm going to get 60 degrees. So x is going to equal 60 degrees. All right, and then our last example, example 4. So it says our angle B is equal to 115 degrees. So I'm going to write that in here. And our angle A is equal to 5x. So we know again that this is a straight angle. Remember, straight angles equal 180. So I'm going to write that in. So straight angle equals 180. And we have our angle B, so 115, plus our angle A, which is 5x, and that's going to equal our total of 180. So this is our two-step equation from here. So we're going to subtract 115 from both sides. We get 5x is equal to 65. I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides, and my x is going to be 13. So when I have to write it in, my x is 13, but for angle A, that is not 13. How I find angle A is I take my 5x. That means that is 5 times 13, and that's going to get us 65 degrees. Thanks for watching. If you missed anything, or if you wanted to check the answers to the protractor questions, you can go ahead and look at the notes key and figure it out from there. Please also complete the 7-1 homework and have fun.